The meat pie burns. Ava stands in the kitchen at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in March, watching smoke curl from the oven, and she does nothing. Just watches. The smoke detector begins its shrill scream. She doesn't move to silence it. Doesn't open the window. Doesn't grab the oven mitts. She watches the pie burn and feels something like joy. On the counter beside her sits a gray cat. It appeared 20 minutes ago through the kitchen window she'd opened for the first time in 3 years. The window Dietrich said must stay closed because the neighbors would smell her cooking and judge them. The cat had jumped onto the sink, then the counter, and settled beside the flour canister like it belonged there. Ava had stared at it. The cat had stared back. And then the timer had gone off for the meat pie, and Ava had made a choice. She let it burn. The smoke detector screams louder. The cat stares flattened, but it doesn't leave. Just sits there, watching her watch the pie blacken and smoke and die. "He's not coming home," Ava says to the cat. To herself. To the burning pie. Her voice sounds strange. She hasn't spoken out loud to herself in years. "He left 4 days ago. Took his clothes. His books. His razor. Everything. He said," she pauses, tasting the words. "He said I was crazy. That I imagined things. That no one would ever believe me." The cat blinks slowly. The smoke is thick now. Ava walks to the detector, finally, and removes the battery. Silence crashes down. She opens the window wider. Cold Berlin air rushes in, clearing the smoke, clearing her head. "I let it burn on purpose," she tells the cat. "He always wanted the pie at exactly 7 p.m. Crust golden brown. Meat tender. Gravy rich but not too thick. If it was wrong, too dry, too salty, too anything, he wouldn't eat it. Would just look at it. Look at me. And say, 'Ava, we've talked about this.'" She pulls the pie from the oven. It's black. Ruined. Perfect. 4 days ago, I told him I wanted a divorce. He laughed. Said I was being dramatic. Said I had no money, no job, no friends. Who would help me? Where would I go? What would I do? She sets the pie on the counter. And then he said, "Besides, you're the one who's broken. You're the one who needs help. I'm the only person who puts up with you." The cat stands. Stretches. Walks along the counter to the pie. Sniffs it. Looks at Ava as if to say, "Are you sure about this?" "I'm sure," Ava says. She picks up the pie, hot, even through the oven mitts, and walks to the trash. Drops it in. The sound of it hitting the bin is satisfying. Final. She turns back to the cat. 4 days ago, he left for his parents' house in Bavaria. Said he needed space from my episodes. Said he'd be back in a week and we talk. But he's not coming back. I changed the locks yesterday. Threw his mail in the recycling. And today. She looks at the empty oven, the open window, the cat. Today I let the pie burn. The cat jumps from the counter to the small kitchen table. Sits in Dietrich's chair. That's his seat, Ava says. Then laughs. Was his seat. Not anymore. She sits across from the cat. The table is empty. She hasn't said it. No placemats. No napkins folded just so. No water glasses filled to exactly 3/4 full. "You want to know how I got here?" she says. "Everyone will want to know. How did a smart woman, I have a degree in fine arts, did you know that? How did I end up here? In this apartment. With this life?" The cat tilts its head. "Okay," Ava says. "Okay. But I'm telling it my way. Not his way. Not the way he made me tell it at dinner parties when people asked how we met. The real way." The cat settles in. Tail wrapped around its paws. Ava takes a breath. It starts in Warsaw. Or maybe it starts in Berlin. Or maybe it starts the moment I was born with a name that means life and learned that life is something you give away. I should tell you something about myself before we go further. I'm not just a cat. Well, I am a cat. Obviously. gray fur, yellow eyes, excellent at appearing in locked apartments through barely open windows. But I'm also, how to explain this, a witness. A keeper of stories. I go where I'm needed, and I listen. Some call me therapy. Some call me magic. Some call me a metaphor for the voice inside that tells you the truth when everyone else is lying. Call me what you want. Tonight I'm in Kreuzberg, Berlin. Top floor of a converted factory building. Apartment 7C. The woman is Eva Kowalski. 36 years old. Polish. Married for 7 years to Dietrich Müller, 43, German, high school mathematics teacher, and the kind of man who makes reasonable sound like violence. I've been watching this apartment for weeks. Watching the pattern. Dietrich leaves at 7:15 a.m. Returns at 6:45 p.m. Eva must have dinner ready at 7 p.m. Must be dressed in the clothes he picks out, modest dresses, nothing above the knee, nothing that shows her arms. Hair in a bun. No makeup except on Sundays. The apartment must be spotless. No art on the walls, her art, anyway. His books are allowed. Her sketchbooks must stay in the closet. She hasn't left the apartment in 6 months except for groceries. He does the shopping with her, tells her what to buy, how much to spend. She hasn't seen her family in Warsaw in 2 years. Her friends, the few who stuck around after Dietrich systematically destroyed each relationship, stopped calling 18 months ago. Classic case. Textbook even. But 4 days ago, something changed. Dietrich pushed too far. Said one thing too many? And Eva, quiet, compliant, erased Eva, looked at him and said, "I want a divorce." He left. Said he'd be back. But Eva changed the locks. And tonight, for the first time in 7 years, she let the meat pie burn. That's why I'm here. Not because she's broken. Because she's breaking free. And breaking free is messy. Painful. Requires witnesses. So here I am. On Dietrich's chair. Waiting for her to tell me everything she's never said out loud. Waiting for her to tell me everything she's never said out loud. Let's begin. We met at an art gallery, Eva says. She's still sitting at the table, across from me. The burned pie smell is fading. The window is open. Berlin sounds drift in, traffic, voices, a distant siren. I was 27. Fresh out of university. I had a small show, just 5 paintings, nothing major. But they were mine. Abstract pieces. Lots of red and black. One critic said they looked like violence transmuted into beauty. I was so proud. She stands. Walks to the closet. Pulls out a sketchbook. Returns to the table. Opens it. Inside sketches. Hundreds of them. Pencil, charcoal, ink. Faces, buildings, hands, abstract shapes. All dated. All signed EK in the corner. Dietrich came to the opening. He was alone. He stood in front of my largest piece, the one I'd spent 6 months on, for 20 minutes. Didn't move. Just stared. I thought he hated it. But then he turned to me and said, "This is what pain looks like when it's honest." She traces one of the sketches with her finger. I was captured. That's the only word. He saw something in my work that no one else had articulated. He was intelligent. Well-read. He quoted Rilke and Kafka. He said art was the only thing that made life bearable. We talked for 2 hours. He asked for my number. The cat watches. Listens. We dated for 6 months. He was attentive. Thoughtful. He'd bring me books. We'd go to museums. He'd cook for me. He was an excellent cook. He never raised his voice. Never pushed. He said he'd been in bad relationships before, said he valued gentleness. Respect. Partnership. Her voice hardened slightly. He was performing. I know that now. Every kind word was an investment. Every thoughtful gesture was a hook. But at the time, I thought I'd found someone who understood me. She turns the page. Another sketch. A self-portrait. Younger Eva. Eyes bright. Smiling. After 6 months, he said he loved me. Said he wanted to marry me. Take care of me. I was working part-time at a bookstore, barely making rent. He had a stable job, a nice apartment. It felt safe. I said yes. The cat shifts position. Curls into a tighter ball. We married 6 months later. Small ceremony. My family came from Warsaw, my parents, my sister Kasia. They liked him. He was polite. Spoke a little Polish. Complimented my mother's cooking. My father said, he's stable. Good German job. He'll take care of you. She closes the sketchbook. The first year was fine. Normal. I set up a small studio in the second bedroom. I'd paint while he corrected papers. We'd have dinner together, talk about our days. He was supportive. Encouraging. He said my work was beautiful. That I should try to show it in galleries. Her hands tightened on the book. Then I got pregnant. She's quiet for a long moment. I miscarried at 11 weeks. It was. She struggles for words. It was terrible. But also, in some way, it cracked something open in him. After the miscarriage, he changed. Started commenting on things. How I kept the apartment. How I dressed. How I spent my time. Small things at first. Ava, did you notice the bathroom mirror has spots? Ava, that dress is a bit short, don't you think? Ava, maybe you should focus on the house instead of painting right now. The cat's ears twitch. I thought he was grieving. That the miscarriage had triggered something. So I tried to be understanding. I cleaned more. Dressed more modestly. Put the paintings away temporarily. And he'd smile and say, see? That's better. That's my good wife. She opens the sketchbook again. Flips through pages. The sketches get darker. More chaotic. Then they stop. Blank pages for the last 3 years. By year 3, I wasn't painting at all. The studio became his office. He said he needed space for his work. I said okay. My art supplies went into the closet. Then into boxes. Then into the basement storage. Out of sight. Her voice drops. By year 4, I stopped seeing my friends. Not because he forbade it. He never forbade anything. He just made it impossible. If I planned to meet someone, he'd schedule something that conflicted. Or he'd have a bad day and need me home. Or he'd say, of course you can go, but I was hoping we could have a quiet evening together. I've been looking forward to it all day. And I'd cancel. Every time. The cat stands. Stretches. Walks to her side of the table. Sits closer. My friend Marta, she was my best friend from university. She called me once and said, Ava, I'm worried about you. You never come out anymore. You never call. Are you okay? And I said. She laughs bitterly. I said I'm fine. Just busy. Marriage is a lot of work, you know. And she said, it shouldn't be this much work. I hung up on her. Dietrich was in the room. He smiled and said good. She was always jealous of what we have. She looks at the cat. He did that with everyone. My sister called. He'd be pleasant on the phone but afterward would say, she sounded drunk. Is she drinking again? She wasn't. My parents visited. He'd be the perfect host, but after they left he'd say, your mother was rude to me. Did you notice? She wasn't. One by one, he poisoned every relationship. Made me doubt everyone. Until I was alone. The cat places a paw on her hand. By year 5, I stopped working at the bookstore. He said we didn't need the money. That I should focus on the house. Make it a real home. He gave me an allowance, enough for groceries, cleaning supplies. Nothing else. My bank account was empty. He controlled everything. Her voice shakes now. And the rules. God, the rules. Wake up at 6 a.m. Make coffee exactly how he likes it. Dark roast, 2 sugars, heated milk. Breakfast at 6:30, eggs, toast, fruit arranged clockwise on the plate. Apartment cleaned by noon, bathroom spotless, floors mopped, no dust anywhere. Dinner at 7 p.m. On Tuesdays and Fridays, meat pie. On Mondays, schnitzel. On Wednesdays, roast chicken. On Thursdays, pasta. Weekends had their own menus. She's crying now. Silent tears. I had to dress how he wanted. Conservative dresses. Nothing modern. Hair always up. No jewelry except my wedding ring. No perfume, he said it gave him headaches. No music when he was home, he needed silence to think. I could sketch only when he was out, and only in the kitchen, and I had to put everything away before he returned. The cat climbs into her lap. She wraps her arms around it. If something was wrong, if the bathroom had water spots, if dinner was 5 minutes late, if I wore the wrong dress, he wouldn't yell. He'd just look at me. That look. Disappointed. Sad. And he'd say, Ava. We've talked about this. As if I was a child who couldn't learn. As if I was defective. She holds the cat tighter. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, was that he made me believe it. Made me believe I was the problem. That I was too sensitive. Too emotional. Too much. He'd say, You're lucky I'm patient with you. Other men wouldn't be so understanding. And I believed him. I thought, yes, I'm lucky. I'm broken and he's fixing me. The cat purrs. Loud and insistent. But he wasn't fixing me. He was erasing me. Every rule, every criticism, every disappointed look, it was sandpaper. Scraping away who I was until there was nothing left. Just this hollow person who cooked and cleaned and obeyed and disappeared. She wipes her face. 4 days ago, I burned the rice. It was an accident. I was sketching, for the first time in months, just a small drawing of the view from the window, and I forgot to set the timer. The rice burned. Stuck to the pot. Ruined. Her voice gets very quiet. He came home at 6:45. Smelled the burned rice. Came into the kitchen. Looked at the pot. Looked at the sketch I'd been drawing. And he said, she pauses, the memory fresh and sharp. He said, this is why you can't be trusted with time alone. This is why you can't have hobbies. You can't handle basic responsibilities. The cat's claws extend slightly. Kneading her legs. Not painful. Just present. And something in me, something I thought he'd completely destroyed, woke up. And I looked at him, and I said, I want a divorce. She laughs. It's almost a sob. He laughed. Thought I was joking. I said, I'm serious. I want a divorce. I want you to leave. And his face changed. Went cold. He said, you're being irrational? You're having an episode. We'll talk about this when you're calm. I said, I am calm. I want a divorce. And he said, you can't divorce me. You have nothing. No money, no job, no friends. Who do you think you are? The cat looks up at her. And I said, her voice strengthens. I said, I'm Ava. I'm Ava Kowalski. Not Muller. I never changed my name. I'm Polish. I'm an artist. And I'm done. She smiles. It's small but real. He was furious. Started listing everything he'd done for me. How he'd supported me. Tolerated me. Put up with my issues. And I just kept saying, I want a divorce. Please leave. Over and over. Like a mantra. And finally, he grabbed his keys and left. Slammed the door. Said he'd be at his parents', and we'd talk when I came to my senses. She sets the cat gently on the table. Stands. Walks to the window. The next day, I called a locksmith. Changed the locks. It cost money I didn't have. I had to borrow from Kasia, my sister, who I hadn't spoken to properly in 2 years. She wired me €500 without asking questions. Just said finally, the Berlin night is dark. Lights in windows. Lives being lived. Yesterday, I called a lawyer. A woman lawyer. She specializes in cases like mine. She said Dietrich will fight. Will say I'm unstable. Will try to gaslight me even in court. But she said she's seen it before. Said we'll document everything. Get records. Build a case. She said it won't be easy, but I can do this. She turns back to the cat. Today, I was supposed to make the meat pie. Tuesday dinner. 7 p.m. And I thought, no. I thought, what if I just don't? What if I let it burn? What if I open the window and let the smoke out and let it all go? The cat jumps back onto Dietrich's chair. Sits like a tiny judge. So I did. I made the pie. Set the timer. And then I watched it burn. And it felt. She searches for the word. It felt like victory. Small. Petty. But mine. She sits back down. You think I'm being dramatic, she says to the cat. You think a burned pie isn't rebellion. The cat blinks slowly. As if to say, I think it's exactly rebellion. Kasia is coming tomorrow. From Warsaw. She's taking a week off work. She said she'll stay with me. Help me pack. Help me figure out next steps. She said. Ava's voice cracks. She said she's sorry she didn't push harder. That she saw what was happening but didn't know how to reach me. And I said, it's not your fault. He was very good at making it impossible to reach me. The cat stands on the chair. Stretches. Walks to the edge of the table. I'm scared, Ava admits. Terrified, actually. I have no money. No job. No recent work experience. I haven't painted in 3 years. I don't know if I remember how. Don't know if anyone will hire me. Don't know where I'll live after this. The apartment is his. The lease is in his name. The cat sits. Looks at her directly. But I also feel. She pauses, surprised by her own words. Free. For the first time in 7 years, I feel like I can breathe. Like the apartment is bigger. Like I'm bigger. Like I exist again. She looks at the burned pie in the trash. At the open window. At the empty chair where Dietrich used to sit. He'll come back. In 3 days, when he said he would. He'll knock on the door and expect me to let him in. Expect me to apologize. To have come to my senses. And I'll tell him through the door, I want a divorce. Contact my lawyer. Don't come back. The cat meows. Clear and strong. You're right, Ava says. I can do this. I can absolutely do this. She stands. Goes to the closet. Pulls out more sketchbooks. Carries them to the table. Opens one. Blank pages. Tonight I'm going to draw. Not hide it. Not rush it. Not worry about him coming home. I'm going to draw whatever I want. And it'll probably be terrible. I'm out of practice. But it'll be mine. The cat walks to the sketchbook. Sits on it. Excuse me, Ava says. I need that. The cat doesn't move. Just looks at her with those golden eyes. What? You want me to draw you? The cat purrs. Fine. I'll draw you. The cat who appeared through my window the night I let the meat pie burn. The witness to my tiny rebellion. She picks up a pencil. Hasn't held one in months. It feels foreign. Then familiar. Then right. She starts to draw. The cat sits perfectly still. A model. A muse. A reminder that she's not alone. Outside, Berlin continues. Inside, Ava draws. The pencil moves across the page. Hesitant at first. Then bolder. Lines appear. A cat. A window. A woman. And for the first time in 7 years, she's not thinking about Dietrich. Not worrying about rules. Not erasing herself. She's just drawing. Ava will be okay. Not today. Not tomorrow. Probably not for months. Dietrich will fight the divorce. He'll call her crazy. Unstable. He'll show up at the apartment. Pound on the door. Leave voicemails that swing between rage and victimhood. He'll tell people she left him for no reason. That he was nothing but good to her. That she's ungrateful. Some people will believe him. His friends. His colleagues. People who only saw the performance. But others will believe her. Kasia. The lawyer. Slowly, a few old friends who've been waiting for years to hear from her. They'll form a circle around her. Weak at first. Then stronger. She'll live with Kasia in Warsaw for 6 months. Will work at her sister's cafe. Will draw in the mornings before her shift. Will slowly, painfully, remember who Eva Kowalski is. She'll go to therapy. Will learn words like coercive control, and gaslighting, and trauma bond. Will cry a lot. Will also laugh. Will rediscover small pleasures, coffee that's too sweet, dresses that are too short, music played too loud. In a year, she'll have a small show in a Warsaw gallery. 10 pieces. All new. All honest. One critic will say they look like freedom tasting itself for the first time. She'll cry when she reads that. Eventually, maybe 2 years from now, maybe 3, she'll wake up and realize she hasn't thought about Dietrich in days. That he's become background noise. That she's built a life he has no place in. But tonight, she just needs to draw. I jump from the table to the window. The night air is cold. March in Berlin. Spring coming but not here yet. Eva doesn't notice me leave. She's absorbed in the drawing. The pencil moving. Her hand remembering. I slip through the window. Onto the fire escape. Down the building. Into the Kreuzberg night. There's a woman in Prenzlauer Berg I should visit. A writer. 51. Hasn't written in a decade. Her partner says her work is self-indulgent. Says she should focus on real responsibilities. She's starting to believe him. Some people need to be told they can leave. Others need to be told their voice matters. Eva needed both. And tonight, watching a meat pie burn, she gave herself permission. That's enough. For now. 3 days later, Dietrich comes back. Eva hears him in the hallway. His footsteps. His key in the lock. The key that doesn't work anymore. He knocks. Loudly. Eva. Open the door. She's sitting at the kitchen table. Kasia is beside her. They're drinking coffee, too sweet, just how Eva likes it now. The apartment smells like paint. Eva has been working on a canvas. Her first in 3 years. It's rough. Angry. Beautiful. Eva. More knocking. This is ridiculous. Open the door so we can talk. Kasia starts to stand. Eva puts a hand on her arm. Shakes her head. She walks to the door. Dietrich. I've asked you not to come here. This is my apartment. His voice is tight. Controlled. You can't keep me out of my own apartment. Contact my lawyer. I've sent you her information. I'm not contacting any lawyer. This is between us. Between husband and wife. We can work this out. Eva closes her eyes. Takes a breath. There's nothing to work out. I want a divorce. I've filed the papers. You'll be served next week. Silence. Then, you're making a mistake. You're going to regret this. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. You can't survive without me. You have nothing. Eva looks back at the apartment. At Kasia. At the canvas. At the open window. I have myself. She says. That's enough. More silence. Then footsteps. Moving away. Getting quieter. He's gone. Eva leans against the door. Slides down. Sits on the floor. Kasia comes over. Sits beside her. You okay? Kasia asks in Polish. Yeah. Eva says. Also in Polish. Yeah, I think I am. They sit there for a while. Sisters. In the apartment that used to be a prison and is now just an apartment. Eventually Eva stands. Goes back to the canvas. Picks up the brush. What are you painting? Kasia asks. Eva looks at the canvas. At the red and black. At the chaos and color and raw, honest emotion. Freedom, she says. I'm painting freedom. And she continues. Brush moving. Colors mixing. Her hands steady. Outside, spring is coming to Berlin. The trees are budding. The days are getting longer. Inside, Eva Kowalski is painting. And for the first time in 7 years, she is exactly where she's supposed to be. Home. I came back once more. 3 months later. Not through the window. Eva had moved by then. Was living with Kasia in Warsaw. Smaller apartment. Brighter. Full of Eva's art. But I saw her. In the park. Drawing. A sketchbook in her lap. Pencil moving confidently. She looked different. Her hair was down. Loose and wild. She wore jeans and a bright yellow shirt. No wedding ring. She was laughing at something Kasia said. She looked like herself. She didn't see me. Didn't need to. The visit had served its purpose. Some people need a witness to their breaking. Others need a witness to their breaking free. Eva needed both. And now she has something better. She's her own witness. Her own voice. Her own life. I disappeared into the Warsaw afternoon. On to the next story. The next woman. The next quiet suffering that needs a gray cat with golden eyes and infinite patience. This is what I do. This is what I am. Witness. Listener. The voice that says, you can do this. And sometimes, just sometimes, I get to watch them prove it true. That's enough. That's everything.